Morning, everyone. Paul, can you get the door for me, please? Call the meeting to order here. The agenda, any additions or deletions?
Mr. Chair, just a reminder at 11:30 recess.
Yep. Blaine's moving the agenda. Vote. That's carried. Okay, a motion to open the public hearing. Keith is making that motion. Vote. Okay, public hearing is open. Bylaw 2024-13, Kayleen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bylaw 2024-13 is submitted by Kendra Poole on behalf of 1798750 Alberta Limited to reclassify 4 existing parcels from Hamlet Commercial District to Hamlet Residential District. The properties are contained within the west half of Section 34, Township 14, Range 9, west of the 4th, within Block 2, containing lots 1 through 11. The property is located along Illingworth Avenue in the hamlet of Suffield. The proposed reclassification area contains an existing campground on the west and an established restaurant, Cactus Pizza and Submarine. The campground is contained on lots 1 through 6 and has approximately 8 fully serviced sites. The restaurant is contained on lots 7 through 8, and the parking lot which support the business appears to encroach onto lots 9 to 11. Lot 11, furthest to the east, is currently vacant. The businesses have been in operation for 10 years, however, due to severe reduction in military residences, lack of staff, no highway access, and the pandemic, the business has suffered. The applicant is requesting for council's consideration to reclassify the property as the lots have been listed for sale with several realtors. The applicant has communicated that while there has been interested parties, potential sales have been unsuccessful due to complications in obtaining financing on a commercial property. In the Land Use Bylaw 2022-09, the general purpose and intent of the Hamlet Residential District is to accommodate low-density residential development within the county's hamlets. In this district, a restaurant and campground are not uses that are listed as either a permitted or discretionary use, and therefore the existing businesses would be required to be discontinued as per the Land Use Bylaw. There is no subdivision intended subsequent to this application, and therefore if the bylaw is approved by council, the reclassification to Hamlet District would immediately take effect. And the proposed reclassification area is within the boundaries of the Suffield Area Structure Plan. Under the adjacent land use districts map that Lesley-Ann has pulled up, we can see bylaw 2024-13 lands are currently Hamlet Commercial. Across the road, we've got Hamlet Residential in green, and a little bit further to the east as well. Mr. Chairman, I also do want to advise that we did do a slight amendment to the bylaw, and that is to extend the bylaw date until October 2024. And reason being is that gives the applicant some time to shut down some of their business operations within that bylaw period. So we did make that amendment. Under the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, it states that municipalities are responsible for the planning and development processes that ensure land is available for development such as residential, commercial, and industrial lands, municipal roads, water, and wastewater treatment facilities to accommodate population growth. The county's municipal development plan directs council as follows. Under section 4.4 Hamlet Development, it states that the county shall identify the following hamlets as small hamlets: Schuler, Suffield, and Vinerville. The county shall support a range of residential development types and densities in these hamlets to provide choices in housing types, affordability, stages of life, and abilities. The county should allow for residential infill development and local commercial that serves the local population. And the county will prioritize, as part of its asset management plan and annual capital budget process, opportunities to maintain and replace municipal water, wastewater, stormwater, and road infrastructure as needed. Under Section 4.2 of the Suffield Area Structure Plan, it states that the development concept proposes infill development within the existing residential area of the hamlet. Existing vacant and undeveloped residential parcels that are served with water and sewer should be developed prior to new residential subdivisions being approved. The Suffield Area Structure Plan identifies the subject parcel as suitable for hamlet residential development over the long term. Alberta Transportation replied that given the information provided to date, and at this juncture, it is merely a change in land use designation, and from Alberta Transportation's point of view, they do not anticipate the redesignation would have any appreciable impact on the highway. A letter has also been submitted by the applicant requesting a transition period should the land use amendment be approved. It has been determined that the business will require some time to discontinue operation of the businesses. The campground currently has tenants who typically pay on a monthly basis, so reasonable notice for tenants is preferred. In addition, the restaurant would typically have approximately 90 days of inventory on hand, as well as any contracts with utility and merchant accounts. And at the time of writing the report, there were no written objections from adjacent landowners. My recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is approval, as the proposal complies with the human development under the implementation of the plan of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, Section 4.4 of the county's Municipal Development Plan, as well as Section 4.2 of the Suffield Area Structure Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayleen. Is there any questions for the planner from council at this time? Not seen. Oh, hold on. Nothing from council? Okay. Are there any comments from anybody for or against the proposed bylaw? This is your time. You can come up, take a seat, push the button so the red light comes on and state your name. There you go. You're ready to go. State your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is John Hill, and me and Mulvey, he's my partner. We have a numbered company business, and just like what she said, we just want to subdivide our land and sell a house with 3 lots, and then the other 6 lots, me and him just want to take 3. I take 3, and that's about it. So it's pretty well what she more or less said. Just going to break everything down and sell it all.
Okay. Any questions from council on that? Pretty straightforward, so.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you very much.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against this application? I will ask one more time. Is there anybody else for or against? Not seeing anybody. I will now call for any final submissions for those who feel they have not had the opportunity to fully participate in the public hearing. Not seeing anybody. The public hearing for bylaw 2024-13 is concluded, and there will be no further submissions accepted. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing? Lloyd? Thank you. Any questions? Vote. That's carried. Okay. Where are we at here? Going to the bylaw then, like 3.1? Oh, 4.1, sorry, minutes. Minutes from last meeting. Dustin's moving them. Oh, rec board, sorry. Don't start with me. We'll be taking a 5-minute break here. Rec board meeting minutes. Any questions on them? Vote. Council meeting minutes from May 22nd. Michelle's moving them. Any questions? He's good with them. Vote. Oh, I already asked for the vote. Did you have something that was wrong on it? What?
It needs a correction.
Okay, so we'll go back to the rec board meeting that was already passed, but
Well, I got sidetracked with Shane working, so,
Just a point of order, so it would just need to be a motion to reconsider, and then it can be reopened, and then it can be passed as amended.
I'll make the motion to reconsider
okay, Shane's making a motion to reconsider that.
the recreation board minutes that were presently passed.
Vote. It's carried. Okay, Mr. Ulster just woke up for the meeting now, so he can,
well, I got sidetracked with Shane's comments, but if you look under council present on the first page of the recreation board meetings, it's got Ernest Moody down instead of Lloyd Want. And I apologize, I was gonna call you I didn't want to bother you on the weekend, but it should be corrected, so.
Lloyd, you didn't even catch that. Okay, it's moved as amended.
Sorry about that. Try to be quicker next time.
All right, vote. Carried. 5.1, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before council is a request for decision for bylaw 2024-13, a land use amendment. Recommended motion is that council move second and third reading of bylaw 2024-13. And special consideration, our planning supervisor identified that this bylaw will take effect October 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Steve. Dustin's moving second. Any questions on it? Not seeing any? Vote. Carried. Blaine's moving third. Vote. That's carried. Okay, we'll move on to 6.1. Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Subject is the May 2024 capital budget update. We'd like to take this opportunity to share some information of the going-ons. Recommended motion here is that council receive the May 2024 capital budget update for information.
Thank you. Paul, do you have more to add to what was presented, or you just ready for questions?
Just ready for questions. Good, sure.
Does anybody have any questions for? Holy moly, somebody's got to have some. Shane? I tried. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
So the April capital report was presented in the last meeting. This is the May capital report. It's not much difference. There's in some of the projects, $10,000 difference here, $30,000 difference there. But we thought that we would split the capital report and the operating report. So the capital report will be probably presented as long as it's available at the first meeting of every month, and the operating report and the AP will be presented at the second meeting of council in month.
Sounds good. Shane?
Yeah, just a couple. I might as well bring it up in here. When do we figure ACON will be done on 3rd Avenue? When are they projected to start?
Should be. Go ahead, Kevin.
Through the chair. They're planning to start at the end of this week, weather permitting, but right away. So they're finished. MJB is finishing up with their last little bits there, and they'll be moving in right away.
Number 2, on some of our deficiencies on the black and white old Trans-Canada Way and at the weeds, an issue that the contractor under their deficiencies look after weed, and even on, I noticed on the black and white, in some of the Burrows area, there is nothing growing, not even a weed. It's still all brown. That they look into that.
Okay, hold on a sec. We'll bring that up at the CEO report. No, that's not under capital. You're ahead on one. This, sorry, Shane, you're ahead on the reports. You can bring it up at the next one. This is just a financial report that Paul's here for. Correct? I think you skipped ahead though. No, that's under. No? Is it under this one? Sorry,
Mr. Chair,
it is too. Sorry, I'm ahead on mine. Shane, you actually did one right. I'm sorry. Do you have the answer for it, Ken? Oh, boy. Leslie Ann, can you get the soother out of the back room, please? Go ahead, Ken.
Through the chair. Yeah, the old Trans-Canada, we've had, during the last 2 years, the lack of rain has caused some issues with the weeds along that road, and they have taken up again now. We're still in the warranty period of that project, and as well as the old as well as the black and white trail, there was some gaps missing for the vegetation growth. So that's actually what we're dealing with right now with the contractor as a deficiency. So you're right there. There is deficiencies on that regard.
Any other questions, sir? Anybody else have anything? Not seeing any. Shane's moving the financial report. Vote. Thanks, Paul. CAO report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 7 on the agenda is the Acting Chief Administrative Officer report. That council recommended motion is that council approve the Acting Chief Administrative Officer report as presented.
Any questions on the report? Lloyd?
To the chair. Ken, I was just wondering, that culvert that washed out off the 41, I think it's the 92. The owner called me and I spoke with him. Some of his fencing and apparently the culvert that was stored there went through a pin. So I'm just wondering what's happening with that.
Through the chair. There is a delay of getting the replacement pipe. Right now, we're about 4 weeks away for that special pipe. And from that rain event that caused the damage, there was some damage to fence and whatnot. So we'll closely work with the landowner to make sure everything's restored as it was at the beginning.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Blaine?
I just see in the peace officer update that peace officers looking after some of the encroachment on the county properties. Just kind of curious how that was going, if we're in the fine stage or if how things were that's being handled.
Through the chair, I had taken a time last week to meet with our CPO to get updates on her files, and that encroachment one's not coming to mind right now. I think it was just, I don't remember the hamlet or the area, but I think it was just a little bit of storage on county property that needed to be moved back to a property line.
Okay.
Some was storage and some was trees that were hanging over and stuff. So it was nothing major, just.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's exactly what it was. It was there were some trees hanging out onto county property that made it difficult for equipment and these types of things. There was one of the tree happened to be an elm tree, so you can't prune those elms outside of a certain period, so that one will have to wait.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Lloyd asked the first question, so he's moving the report. Vote. That's carried. Reeve and council reports. Don't have any, a little bit to add, I guess. That Safety Buzz 20th anniversary was a really good turnout there. There was a lot of county people, a lot of city people. The mayor was there from the city, and MLA Wright was there, so it was a good turnout. We all did a little speech and congratulated them on 20 years. They were happy to see us there. And I'll say, I know we can't talk about what happened in the Tri-IDP council meeting, but I will say to everybody that it was well done in there. Everybody spoke, everything. It was good to see all the councils and everybody come together and actually have a lot of dialogue and everything in there. So it was a good evening. We'll start with Dustin.
Not too much. Attended that Tri-Area IDP council meeting. Had a regional ag or a provincial ag service board meeting. Just going over resolutions from this year's conference. Having a real hard time getting some responses out of the government on some things, so we've been working heavily on that. They're still not going to allow us to have strict 9. That was a given, but we asked the question again. So they, through the grapevine, though, it does sound like they are working on some different control measures for that, so that we might see something in the next couple of years, hopefully. Lots of phone calls about Downey Brome on the ditch lines, which it's a real good year for Downey Brome, but it's almost too late to spray now, so hopefully the mowers can take care of it. But I think we'll be fighting that every time we get a wet year from here on out. So, but that's about it.
Thank you, Dustin. Lloyd?
Actually, this is the first time in, I'm going to say about a year, everything is good out in Elkwater. I did attend the Tri-Area IDP meeting. I found it very informative. What I liked is that we sat with a counselor from Medicine Hat and a counselor from Red Cliff at all the tables, and we had our own discussion plus listening to everything. So I really believe that Kayleen and Steve did a good job of it, and they both answered the questions that were put to them, and that was good. I attended the Elkwater Community Association General Meeting. Leslie Nemeth, who's been the secretary there for, or treasurer, I should say, for 22 years, stepped down. And I sat with Dylan and we had a conversation there. He was just advising me that they are starting their road project for that emergency exit probably in a few days or by next week, just up to the gate on their side. He also advised me that they were putting out posters, or not posters, pamphlets, and handing them out at the visitor center and at the check-in, which show routes for the 2 major evacuation routes up through to the top to the Golf Course Road, and then through the across the to the 41 across. What was good is also at a rancher that showed up at my place on some tax questions, and I had to phone Paul, and he gave me a call back right away, and they talked for about 15 minutes. And after that, it was really good to listen to him talk about how pleased he is with the county, even with his taxes. And what was nice about the Elkwater one is a lady came up to me after the meeting, and she's a lawyer from Lethbridge, and she is thinking of moving to Medicine Hat with her family. Anyway, she went for a tour of Elkwater and really liked it. But she told me the day before they had gone to a place she said was called Irvin or something. And I said, yeah. And she loved the library. She couldn't quit talking about it, about how beautiful it was and the people in the playground. And she went in and looked and just couldn't believe that we would build something like that in a small center like that. But, so I just thought I'd pass that on. And, that was it.
Thank you, Lloyd. Richard?
To start out with, just, I was at a meeting last week, and I ended up sitting beside the mayor of Coots, and we did talk a bit about properties and unsightly stuff, and what they've done down there, they passed a bylaw. He said they used Edmonton's idea that after a certain amount of time and warnings, they triple the taxes. So that might be something for us to look at down the road if we don't get the cooperation that we want, so. But, of course, then you could get stuck with the property and the cleanup, so there's a balancing, but if you want to clean up your towns, he said that was, they just weren't having any luck otherwise. Let's see, 28th, May 28th at a Verge meeting, we had good attendance, and we have representation from Bow Island, County of 40 Mile, and then Medicine Hat College. Lots of discussion on current projects and future projects in all those municipalities. On Thursday, May 30th, drove to Warner for the Milk River Watershed Council of Canada AGM. They have it in Warner because there's a large municipal works building there that works well for meetings. And of course, I attended the meeting with the Redcliffe and Medicine Hat councilors. One thing that I need to bring up, somehow I didn't forward or was not in, yeah, no, I take the blame, not the blame, but Teresa, for our executive director at Verge, wants to have a strategic planning session, and it was planned for June 19th. I did not confirm that council and staff had received the email, because my understanding is I don't think anybody has. So between a few of us, anyway, it didn't get passed on. I'm going to suggest that this meeting would get moved to August or September and give everybody lots of time to put it in their calendar, because we're talking 2 or 3 hours to take a look at where we want economic development to go. Right now, Beth is kind of down with a broken leg, and we would want her there, not just doing it virtual. And we don't have our director right now either, right? Or, yeah. Is that job through you? Is that through the CAO? Okay, yeah, so that wouldn't matter then. But I'm going to suggest that I will bring it back, and we'll look at a future time for that, so. And that's it. Thank you.
Shane?
Nothing. Attended the joint IDP meeting with all Redcliffe and Medicine Hat, and us. It was good. And just answering quite a few questions about the goings-on in Cypress County and some roads and some other issues, so it's pretty quiet, actually, on meeting side.
Michelle?
Thank you. On May 24th, I was in Edmonton for an FCSS AA meeting. On May 29th, I was in Brooks for the Grasslands Regional FCSS AGM, which was really good. I gave a short presentation just basically on the breakdown of FCSS and FCSS AA and what they all mean and how they work and stuff like that. I attended the Tri-Area IDP Joint Council meeting. I had a Cypress View policy meeting yesterday. And I also received a few phone calls on taxes and something that's coming up on the agenda later. And that was about it.
Thank you. Keith?
Regular council meeting and the Tri-Area IDP joint council session. That was basically everything for me.
Thank you. Blaine?
Yeah, I also attended the joint council session. It was very good to meet some new councilors from both cities. And last night I attended the Urban Ag Society meeting. The recent manager has turned in his resignation, so that's a little disappointing because they had a very successful year with the ice rentals being up quite substantially, and their kitchen everything is financially have done quite well actually, but it seems like they're having some issues holding on to a manager. You know, they seem to come in there with great intentions, and they get a little overwhelmed with everything come November, December, January when it's getting busy. So anyways, they've lost, or their current manager is resigning, so they've had the job posting out there, and they've actually gotten in quite a few new applications already. So hopefully they can find somebody with enough commitment that'll stay for a little bit. But other than that, things seem to be going fairly well down there.
Thank you. Robin?
Just had the meeting with the Reeve with regards to preparation for our IDP meeting and the meeting itself, which went very well. I was happy with the way that our staff managed that, as well as the contributions that all the other councils and our council brought to the table. So I think that created some good, fresh, new momentum that I look forward to seeing that carry forward.
Thank you. Any questions on the reports? Blaine's going to move the reports. Vote. Carried. 9.1, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A request for decision for a speed limit change request of and this in particular one's of the Funk subdivision. We received a letter. Would like to have a bit of a presentation through our Director of Public Works.
Through the chair, excuse me, through the chair. As I've noticed over the last couple of years, we receive one or two requests on speed limit changes, usually down, not up. And this is one of them, and I have put a little bit of information, and I have a letter here that was carefully put together and well done by the residents, and to request that. So the recommended motion is that Council direct administration to conduct a speed limit review of all multi-parcel subdivisions and bring back recommendations for Council's consideration. And a couple of the highlights I have here, and thank you, Leslie Ann, for putting that up. I have the overall image of the subdivision, and just scroll to the first one there. There's Highway 41, and then you can see as the vehicles exit off the highway, there's no taper or anything to turn off. They come around that corner, and then halfway down that little leg there's a 50-kilometer-an-hour sign, and then it comes to the T intersection. You go left for a little bit, or you go and right for a little bit, and left for a little bit there. So it's a dead end for both directions. So right now we currently have a 50-kilometer sign in there. So discussion items I have here are reducing the speed limit in the Funk subdivision will likely lead to requests from other subdivision residents. It may be prudent to reduce the speed limit in all subdivisions at the same time for consistency, similar to the hamlets. And the number of multi-parcel subdivisions in the county is approximately 35. Similar municipalities address hamlets and subdivisions as follows. Example 1, maximum of 40 kilometers an hour on a roadway within the borders of a hamlet or developed subdivision. Additionally, a reduction to 30 kilometers per hour in select subdivisions, and it usually lists out those. Example 2, the maximum speed limit for vehicles in subdivisions with 2 or more lots with a road system contained within the subdivision boundary will be 50 kilometers per hour. This was amended to change from 60 to 50. So you can see an example there as well. A review of all the subdivisions posted speed limits could be completed and brought back with recommended changes. The assessment would be completed by a qualified traffic practitioner or firm engineer, just to have an unbiased assessment following some principles. And I got a quote, just a ballpark quote for each subdivision. It would be approximately $1,500 per subdivision to do an assessment, which equates to about $57,000 to do. So currently, all Cypress County hamlets are posted at the maximum 40 kilometers per hour, except for Vinerville at 30 kilometers per hour in sections of the roadways in Dunmore. There's certain reductions. So it's brought up in the past to what criteria, and in general, the criteria is based on highways and assessment for speeds on township roads and thoroughfare, not so much subdivisions, but a lot of the same principles apply. So they follow the TAC manual, which Alberta Transportation follows the TAC manual, and every province follows that guidelines that's set aside for each of the provinces to follow. So typically in a study like this, it would include the road characteristics, like the width of the road, the type of road, for instance, gravel or surfacing like asphalt, curves, so road characteristics, vehicles, operating speeds, and volumes, and this is done through traffic counts, which we do. We don't typically do them in subdivision, in hamlets, in certain areas. We'll conduct these, and on range roads, as you see in the council report, we always post those results. So all that information kind of feeds into coming up with a solution. So collision history is another one. That's usually one that usually starts the process. Pedestrian and cycling activity on roads, driveway spacing, and roadways that there's roadside issues like a hill or curves or street parking and stuff like that, or adjacent land use. So that's kind of the criteria, and it could be modified a little bit, not ticking off every single one. So that is one option we can do. I have an alternate item to consider here is bring back the speed limit to change the speed to Funk subdivision to 30 kilometers an hour, or direct administration accordingly. So like I said, we get submitted 1 or 2 per year, and they're addressed as they're brought up, kind of thing. So I think if we keep getting them, we'll just see this back and forth a number of times. We may want to consider something. So I do have the letter here that I'll briefly go over from the residents. Just get the main points here. Right now it's posted at 50, 30 kilometers an hour would benefit the community. It was historically known as the Ostrich Ranch, which is Funk subdivision. And it's densely, they say densely populated, but there's a lot of driveways that are consistent along these routes too. So I went out there and got a few photos. Leslie Ann, you want to put the rest of the photos? You can see where that 50-kilometer sign is right there as you turn. And then you can see the multiple. Some people have put out little slow down signs right there. The road is built to our standard. It was built about 12 years ago, summers in there, or it was paved and rebuilt, so it was built to the current standard. So along with this letter, it lists out a lot of details like the increased traffic, that what they're seeing in the last couple of years is from the delivery, the Amazon deliveries, the skip the dishes, to the new drivers coming in there. They come off the highway a bit quick and around the corner, so they do notice that. And probably all the other communities notice that change. So road safety concerns, they don't necessarily say there's children playing on the road, but playing near the road. They actually went into the reaction times with 30 kilometers and 50 kilometers an hour and the difference of that. So it was quite well put together. They highlighted the safety of kids and the proximity to the speed of the highway turning off, like I mentioned. They did their research on our bylaws and noticed the 40 kilometers an hour in all the hamlets. And Vinerville was similar situation at 30 kilometers an hour. They comment on that. And so their summary at the end was more of an enhancement of safety for the risks. Protection of vulnerable road users, adjustment to new drivers and patterns, and it aligns with other communities. And they ended the letter by signing, about 70% of the residents have signed the letter. So I also included, just for information, a map of the county and all the highlighted subdivisions in the county. So just for information in our discussion. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Ken? Robin?
So Ken, thank you for the presentation. The question I've got is, on that one picture that you had, it described as subdivision access road. I know we have our secondary highways, our primary highways, there's different levels of roadways. Do we currently have kind of a written description of all different kind of road classes or road descriptions? Because to me, like that, when you have an access that provides access only for those that are within a subdivision, even though it's a public road, if we consider that as kind of a private access subdivision feeder road kind of a thing, that kind of feeds into that methodology again, kind of a deal, right? Because some of the language that we're using, or that they were using within the letter on, I think vulnerable users of the roadway. We've had conversations in the past with regards to roads like 13th Avenue heading out at Medicine Hat. I feel like it's important for us as we're going through this to be able to have a different lens to look at each style of road, because if we use it as vulnerable, users and they're inappropriately using a highway, for example, that's probably not going to be one that we're going to be looking at the same kind of thing. When we've got 75% of the residents that are utilizing a private access for their subdivision, and they're all asking for it to be lowered down to 30, that makes it a whole heck of a lot easier to justify doing something like that. So I'm just kind of, I like the way that you put it forward. I like the idea of bringing it back and looking at kind of all the other kind of the subdivisions that are out there. And the one thing I'd kind of run by Steve with something like this right here, what is because it is a county road still, we still maintain it. What is the option for them to even put down like speed bumps, like those rubber mat speed bumps or anything like that, to help to keep some of these individuals from using it as a track for quick deliveries?
Yeah, some communities put down paved speed bumps. They're definitely a maintenance issue in the winter. And it's actually a safety issue too for cyclists. But in some situation, they could work where there is a need for it, but probably should more information maybe on speed. We put up our digital speed sign when we know that there's been some complaints. So we do put that up in the hamlets. So, trying that more information-based is usually the first step.
Shane?
Just to Robin's comment, them speed bumps work well in a campground, but when you get into a hamlet, they become such a maintenance issue, your plows, everything, and you hit them. And to ask a plow operator, when they hook one of them, they will go through the windshield. But at campgrounds, there's a lot of kids out, and that's where you really want to slow down the traffic. But on this here, your access coming off the highway, you can't do nothing about that. You put up a 30, there for the safety of the kids. And then at times, our bylaw officer can sit there too. I mean, that's part of their job. But for me, when I look at safety for kids, if kids are out there nowadays, they're not just on bikes. They got their skateboards and they got everything. And now some of them younger kids even got scooters. And there's more, it seems like kids are out a bit more, hopefully, instead of on video games, but out on this roadway and that. So I agree with reducing it down.
Michelle?
Couple things. The speed bumps, I can't see it, not there. You see that road coming down the side of the ditch? That's quads, and they got ramps set up at the bottom of that. All those speed bumps are gonna be used for is those kids on the quad to jump them, would be my guess. And I don't have an issue with lowering the speed limit, but I think that if we're gonna do it, we should do it for all of them, not just one at a time.
Robin?
Just, we're using the term hamlets a lot, just to differentiate the difference between hamlets and country residential subdivisions. There is a difference too, correct? Like with these aren't hamlets, right? So subdivisions and yeah.
Richard?
Aren't we down to 40 kilometers an hour in hamlets now? Yeah.
In hamlets.
Yeah, okay, no, I understand, but not in subdivisions. So, some thoughts on page 47, example number 1, maximum 40 kilometers per hour on a roadway within the borders of a hamlet, which we already have, or develop subdivision. Additionally, a reduction to 30 kilometers per hour in select subdivisions, and that to me would mean if the people request 30, we would look at it. It's easy, it's simple, it's being used by other people. I really don't want to spend the $56,000 on a study, so it's just me. I think we go ahead and I appreciate that number, Ken, because I was wondering what it would cost, but I like this one, example 1. It's pretty easy and it would satisfy 98% of the people maybe. Yeah, that's a pretty high number, but it could be.
Steve?
Through the chair, so the way Ken's presented this is kind of showing that the two or ends of the spectrum, where if something like a speed bump would be if they did go into that and do that that inspection of the hamlet to identify, the sighting when you're coming out the driveway, the density of the driveways, and then to be able to determine the appropriate thing, whether that be a speed bump or a sign or what have you. Some of those engineering controls would be what's promoted to come first. Alternatively, council we would be happy to accept direction to bring back the bylaw with that specific change. Just wanted to get the greater information, greater options for council to consider.
I kind of agree with Richard. I don't see spending that kind of money. Oh, well, we could if we voted on it, but that would have to go into next year's budget, I would imagine. Like, it won't be part of this year's, so something to look at the future. But we've been doing a lot of one-offs, and like Ken said, there's maybe 1 or 2 a year, so to bring it in and deal with it one at a time, that's what we're here for. So, Richard, did you have something else to add?
I can make a motion for example 1, or I can make a motion to lower the speed limit to 30 in that subdivision.
Which one are you saying, Blaine?
There's that alternate motion number 1 that would fit this situation right now that we just talked about, so.
Yeah. Is that what you're moving?
Yep, I like that. Especially in that subdivision, I can see where that would definitely work in a small subdivision like that.
That's what you're doing there, number 1, alternate motion number 1, right?
For the Funk subdivision to 30K. Okay, any questions on that? Vote. Carried. Thanks for all that presentation on that, Ken. 9.2, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. NRCB referral, LA 24001. This is a confined feeding operation. I'm going to pass it over to Kayleen here shortly, but a little bit of further background. Currently, RMA Division 1 Jason Schneider was involved with trying to address some road use issues that may arise from confined feeding operations. Jason reported back to Kayleen and I that there wasn't much traction happening to address the road use bylaws, and so more information to come. But at that, I'll hand it over to our planning supervisor.
Thank you through the chair. The recommended motion is that council direct administration to submit a letter to the NRCB that application LA 24001 complies with the municipal development plan, provided that the operator enters into a road use agreement and meets the minimum setback requirements of the agricultural 2 district of the land use bylaw. The application is submitted by Cody Traxel to place a confined feeding operation on a 8.14 acre parcel, and he's seeking approval to construct 6 feedlot pens with a catch basin, and seeks approval for up to 1,000 beef feeders as well. The council recently amended the municipal development plan last year, and one of the discussions that council had at that review was council wanted the opportunity to be able to review these applications and to provide feedback in the written letter to the NRCB. So that's why this is being brought forward for you today. The application generally complies with the intention of the municipal development plan. It meets the minimum setback of 1.6 kilometers from adjacent hamlets. And essentially what the NRCB is essentially asking for is 4 very specific questions for the county to answer. Number 1, is the application consistent with the provisions in our municipal development plan? Are there any IDPs or area structure plans that apply to the area? What is the land use zoning of the application site as well as the surrounding lands within 1 mile? And does the application meet the county's required municipal setbacks? So with the feedback from council, if there is any additional information, we're happy to include that in the written letter, but we do recommend that the letter support the CFO application to the NRCB.
Thank you, Kayleen. Oh, I don't know who was first.
I just had a question on the road use agreement. What is in the road use agreements for CFOs? Is it similar? Do they have to put down a deposit, much like we do when we have contractors do things, or is it something different altogether?
Through the chair. From what I've seen, being here for a couple of years now, they haven't been really detailed in the agreement itself for the particulars. Some is dust abatement and how that is addressed, whether it's oil or whether it's calcium. But probably a little bit more information and the impacts and the more information from the developer on intensity. I think we need to review that more and determine the right solution for that.
So just a thought on that, maybe we should be making some sort of schedule as a per head or per capita of animals that are going to be moving in and out of what our different guidelines will be. So, because I look at this one compared to the next one, we're looking at 1,000 head here, and the next one it's going to be 6,000 head or whatever it may be. So we should maybe have a schedule of different things that have to be done per animal unit that's going to be moving in and out. Maybe over 1,000 head, we're required to do calcium, but if you're over 6,000 head, there's going to be, you have to do a dust abatement, and you have to ensure the roads are a certain way, or I'm not sure what the details may be, but I'm just thinking to streamline the process and maybe just have something in there that we don't have to look at it every time it's preset. Might be a good idea.
Shane?
Well, that was part of my question too, and I agree with Dustin. I mean, I'm just looking at this, and here's a young guy with a small feedlot entering into a road use agreement. What is it gonna be? When just down the road south there's a way bigger feedlot. Even south east of 7 Persons, way bigger, way more traffic. And I agree, under this road use agreement with, let's say, bigger feedlots with more head, dust abatement and that, but also, if they're hauling their silage and they're really damaging our county road, they don't have, under the agreement, they don't have the ability to go and maintain it, and sometimes they won't maintain it properly. We could set in there something where we would come and maintain it if we're getting complaints and it's all rutted up, and just charge it back to them. I've done that when I worked in my past job. We never had the equipment on site. I hired the county to come and fix up the whole road. They just billed us, and it got back for safety of the motoring public. But I agree with Dustin. I mean, now you got a little guy going to be treated. Is he going to be treated the same as the 20,000, or the 10,000 head feedlot? Which way more traffic, way more B trains in and out, and cattle liners and everything. So it's just something that we should really look at. But under the road use agreement, I think that we should, if they're really using it in times of silage and the damage to road, we have to think of the motor and public safety, that we would send a grader over, fix it up, but they would know that they'd be charged back.
Ken?
Through the chair. Second note that I had that ties in there is the condition of the existing roads around. They could be just, low standard, been around for a while, that they don't have the strength that they need for the intensity. So it reminds me of the resource roads that were built. They're a little different standard, a little higher grade, controlled compaction, and maybe some of these roads maybe need to be recompacted, rebuilt, recompacted, and improved to support that kind of intensity. So, it may be a 200-meter stretch, or it may be a quarter of a mile. So, that's reviewing the road use agreement, reviewing the existing road characteristics to see if they're suitable.
Wayne?
Yeah, I agree with both Dustin and Shane, because I thought the same thing. There should be some kind of a formula built around this on how this is going to take place. But my question is, and my concern is also, while we're dealing with that, how does this affect the application going forward? If we don't get him to enter a road use agreement, and is it going to create a problem for this CFO to take place, or the permit?
Through the chair, I think in terms of the NRCB process, they've given us very confined questions that they want us to answer. So they're not getting into the road use perspective. We're just focusing strictly on the municipal development plan, because that's the only bylaws that the NRCB is bounded by of ours. However, I have reached out to Mr. Traxel. I've requested that he and Public Works and myself have a meeting to discuss the project. What happens is that the road protection bylaw essentially sets the ability for the road use agreements to be entered into, and then they're negotiated behind the scenes with staff. So it would be up to Ken, myself, any other representatives to work through that process. But definitely the road protection bylaw, I think, would be maybe that starting factor.
Any other questions? Okay, Richard?
And, we'll negotiate in good faith, and we do have a hammer, and it's called a road ban. So either look after the roads, don't abuse them, and we won't have to put a road ban on, so.
Caitlin?
In this application as well, his operation is very much kind of prohibited to, he's got 3/4 sections right in that vicinity. So a majority of the manure spreading that he's doing, it's all going to be contained to that one area. So in terms of hauling, he said he'll have 12 loads, one in the spring and then one out in the fall. So we have had those discussions in terms of what haul roads he's preparing to utilize, but it is all contained to that area along Township Road 111, so that hopefully will reduce some of the impacts as well.
Any other questions? Dustin moved number 1. Sorry, Keith.
So when we look at approving these applications, I would assume then that the roadway that they're going to use will be a primary consideration from now on? Because I'm thinking most of these roads were built for low-intensity farming operations, and we're actually changing the amount of preparation needed to have a good road into a feedlot. I'm just thinking of this one south that is quite a bit bigger. Is the original road obviously wasn't intended for that size of an operation, so have we thought about how to have a standard road for a certain size operation?
Through the chair. As far as a standard detail for that type of industry, no, not necessarily. There is a cross-section for a resource, and that's probably the closest thing, because it has the truck traffic impacts for that cross-section, just a little bit wider, and it's about 1.2 meters high and requires a 30-meter right-of-way to build such a road. So a lot of these places, we only have 20 meters, so there's an issue there to try to get a standard that meets the majority of the areas. So hope that answers your question. There is a general cross-section road standard for resource roads or heavy use roads, heavy haul roads like logging roads and
Thank you, Ken. Any other questions? Not seeing any. Dustin moved the recommended motion. Vote. It's carried. 9.3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 9.3, this might look familiar, but it's a little different. NRCB referral, LA 24012. Again, our recommended motion here is that council direct administration to submit a letter to the National Resource Conservation Board that application LA 24012 complies with the municipal development plan. And I'll look to the planning supervisor if she has anything else to add.
Thank you through the chair. This one is submitted by Borderland Hatarian, and it's for a chicken layer barn, a manure storage room, chicken pullet barn, and a manure storage room. And they're seeking approval for 40,000 chicken layers and 40,000 chicken pullets. Previous applications, there were 2 of them. However, they were withdrawn by the colony, and therefore that constitutes that this application is now a new CFO. In the case of Borderland Colony, we were able to impose on the condition for their housing units that they're required to supply us with a road use agreement and security under the road use agreement. So I think we're confident that we'll be able to negotiate those terms under that existing development.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Michelle.
I'll move the recommended motion.
Any questions on it? I think staff have got this one under control. Vote. It's carried. 9.4, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Dunmore Day's sponsorship request. Recommended motion, excuse me for one. Okay, so just a small change to the recommended motion here, whereas that council will donate funds not exceeding $1,000 to the Dunmore Community Association Pancake Breakfast. So the difference from what you have on your RFD to the rewording that I just done is the first wording has Leslie Ann going shopping for the supplies, and the other one is just providing them money to go buy the supplies they would like to serve.
Okay, we've done this a few times. That's where we show up and do all the flipping. Blaine?
I'd make that motion. I've taken part in this the last couple of years, and I really enjoy it. And I think the public sure enjoys coming out and having it. And it's a really good get together the middle of summer there. So yeah, I'll make that motion.
Michelle?
Did we donate the food last year, or has it been just money for the last few years? 2 years? Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Makes it easier that way.
Any other questions? Vote. That's carried. 9.5.
Okay, 9.5 is an Elkwater Parade sponsorship request. The recommended motion here is that council donate parade supplies to the Elkwater Community Association for the Canada Day Parade on July 1st, not exceeding $500, funded from council promotions.
Do you want to do just cash again and not do the, you don't want to go shopping again? Lloyd?
Yeah, I'll make the recommended motion. Also, just to let you know, they really do or would like the reeve or the deputy reeve, quite seriously, on those pedal bikes, and the fire chief, if that's possible.
And the counselor I heard too, from the area.
They want that young guy.
Okay, so you're changing your recommended motion though, so it says just supply the money, not
Right.
the, okay. Sure.
So just an adjusted recommended motion to consider that that council donate funds not exceeding $500 for the Elkwater Community Association for the Canada Day Parade, funded from council promotions.
Perfect. Shane, you had a question?
Have we done this before? Because what about all the other parades?
Les?
I mean, Irvin, 7, Medicine Hat, Redcliffe.
Thank you, through the chair. This RFD was written in a way that it seems like it's going to the Elkwater Community Association, but it's an ad hoc committee, kind of this parade committee that the volunteers put together, that they help with the kids and stuff. So it's not necessarily going to the association, it's an ad hoc of the people in the community that do this parade with the kids.
Lloyd?
Right, it's the cabin owner there that goes to community meetings and sets up most of these parades and things for kids. They get roughly around 1,500 people in the park that day. And she's done it for, I think, 2 or 3 years now. And not that it makes a difference, but she just got elected on the board this year as a director, so.
Les?
Through the chair, and we did give funds for this last year.
Any other questions on it? Vote. Carried. 9.6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This subject here is a request to open the tri-area IDP for review. The recommended motion here is that council direct administration to submit a letter to the City of Medicine Hat and Town of Red Cliffs Council to open the tri-area IDP for review and amendments with substantial completion by November 1st, 2024. The June 4th letter is attached behind. Follow-up action would be to, the staff would bring a recommended motion to do just that, open the tri-area IDP for Cypress County to the next meeting, if this is approved. And the substantial change is that the IDP subcommittee team will be tasked with overseeing the review as opposed to the ICM committee, the intermunicipal committee.
Thank you. Shouldn't be. Dustin's moving it. Anybody have any questions on it? Michelle?
I don't have a question on this, but I do have a question that was brought to my attention over the last couple days. Is the distance 2 miles, or is it 2 kilometers, or is it 3.2 kilometers in the IDP? Just curious.
Through the chair, it varies. On the south side of the city, it goes up to 3 miles to the Township Road 120 corridor, which is the commercial industrial. However, the potential growth area is 2 miles. And then on the west side of the city, it extends out to 4 miles in some instances.
But everything is in miles.
That's the question that I was wondering, is if it's in miles, and why is it in miles and not in kilometers? Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know how to answer the question when I got it. And I said I would check into it, so.
Any other questions?
I believe that would be about 36 fathoms, right? Yep. Be 166 chains or 322 rods.
Vote. That's carried. Do we want to come back and go in camera when we come back? We'll just break now and go out for that. Okay. Everything that's on here. No. Well, you need to wait till we're in camera, I think, for it. I guess so. Okay. Motion to go in camera. Keith? Vote, I guess. Sorry, I thought I said that.